Welcome back to Dealing with Dinner. I have a guest sous chef with me today. It's Nick. Thanks for joining us, Nick. Today is War of the Wellingtons. And this is what we're going to make today. Beef Wellington and vegetable Wellington. Let's go. Hi, I'm Kevin. My family calls me Chef Kiki. Years ago, I married this beautiful Italian girl. And I thought my cooking days were over. But alas, here I am, dealing with dinner again. Common ingredients, very many common ingredients in this dish. We're gonna make a duxelle with our baby portobello mushrooms, thyme, some garlic. We have our demi glace, Parma ham, English mustard, 4 egg yolks for egg wash. We have some puff pastry that's frozen and will thaw out here quickly. And so the side dishes will be our green beans, which are organic and have been cleaned, and our fondant potatoes, which will be cooked in a stock. To get started, we have to make our duxelle, which is our mushroom base filling, and we're going to do that first. And so, Nick, let's get that started. Right, I got this one. All right, so we have to get all the water out of the mushrooms, very important, because otherwise it makes the pastry very soggy. So we're going to get this really nice and dry. You can see how much water is in there. While the duxelle is still cooking, we are going to saute this butternut squash. We're going to try to seal it. A little color, just to seal it. All right, so we'll put this in the oven for about 20 minutes. All right, you can see how it's drying up now pretty well. Still has a little bit of moisture in it, so we're going to let it cook it down a little bit more. Okay, very hot pan. Not trying to cook it, just trying to give it some color. Sealing the juices so when it's in the pastry, it won't leak and make the pastry all wet. And while this is still nice and warm, we're going to baste it with mustard. Okay, so we've transferred the duxelle to just a regular roasting pan on paper towels. We're going to cover it with paper towels. We're going to let it sit there for a few minutes. You can still see there's a lot of moisture in here. So we're going to do this for probably about 10 minutes, and then we're going to chill it down and get it down to room temperature.
All right, so while the meat is warm, we're going to try to coat it completely in the English mustard. So we're just going to make sure we have a little brush, completely coat it on all sides.
While Nick's doing that, I'm going to start assembling the wrap for the beef Wellington, which is going to be a Parma ham. And this just helps us seal in the juices and also gives a nice flavor. We're going to wrap this and chill it and firm it up. And the saran wrap helps us hold it together nicely. It's good. All right, so you can see how wet these paper towels are. Holy cow. Soaking wet.
We're gonna put the paper towel on it once more, try to absorb as much moisture as we can just for a second time.
All right, so we're assembling the beef Wellington, and we're going to put the duxelle across all the Parma ham, fairly thin. All right, a little trick if you want to know how much mushroom to put in for length. You start at one end and you roll your piece to the other end, and it's exactly correct. So we've got the right amount. And I'm going to try to get this squeezed very hard. We want to get all the air out. Make sure the mushrooms get in there. We don't want the Parma to get in there yet. We want the mushrooms on the inside. There we go. You can see how the plastic helps us squeeze it together. All right, and now we're going to squeeze it very tight. Make this cool little torpedo. And the more you squeeze it like this, the more uniform it becomes, nice and even. And now we're going to chill that for about 20 minutes. All right, so we've been cooking our butternut squash in our vegetable stock for about 20 minutes. It's not completely cooked, almost completely cooked. And now we're going to take it out, let it cool for a second, and we're going to keep our stock because that's going to be our sauce. Okay, so our beef Wellington has been chilling for about 20 minutes. Now we're going to roll out our pastry, and since our squash is out, we're going to do both at the same time. It's about 1/8 of an inch by the time we get done. So here's our Parma wrapped beef Wellington. All right, and now we're going to take our egg wash, which is just egg yolks, and generously brush the edges because we want these edges to stick nice and tight because we don't want anything to leak out. I'm going to fold over the first part and then the second part. Again, we want to keep as much air out as possible. I'm going to trim off all this excess. And we'll brush the ends so it sticks together nicely. I'll just fold them up like so. Film. Roll it like this. Just keep rolling until it's nice and tight. Make a nice cylinder. Beautiful. 5 more minutes in the fridge. Okay, and now we're on to our squash, our butternut squash Wellington. And we have the right width. It's going to be a little bit long, but we'll trim that in a second. We'll take our duxelle, and this has got to be super dry. If you want to protect the pastry, we've used lettuce leaves. You can try using rice paper. If you want to protect the dough from the duxelle, if you think it's still too moist. All right. Here we go. Wrap this around like so. Over. We'll trim back all this extra pastry. We'll fill our ends in nice and neat. Again, a little egg wash to help it stick to itself. Okay. And now we're going to wrap this up in cling film like the beef Wellington to make sure we get it nice and tight. Symmetrical, and that seals it really nicely. So we're going to just chill that just for a minute as well. Okay, so we're going to do our potato fondant. We have our vegetable stock reducing, which is going to be a nice sauce for our veggie Wellington. And fondant, we're actually going to brown on both ends first. I'm going to check our color. Beautiful color.
All right, so the beef Wellington is out of the fridge. We're gonna try to transfer it over to the pan over here. The most important thing about just placing this Wellington on the pan itself is to make sure that this seam that is in my right hand right here is down. So we wanna make sure that this part is down. So I'm gonna invert it, place it down. It should give it a nice, beautiful crispiness and color. We're gonna do a nice egg wash right on top. Be a little bit liberal with this, not too much to make it soggy, but we want it to be completely coated. And make sure you do not do all sides. The biggest thing about the wax paper underneath is that we don't want it to be soggy and adhere to the Wellington itself. So we have our vegetarian Wellington right here. It looks very, very nice, beautiful shape to it. We're gonna put the crease down just like the beef Wellington. The exact same thing. We're gonna do an egg wash right on top. Again, not too much to the point where it's soggy, coated thoroughly. All right, and if you were trying to be fancy, make it look a little bit more nice, get that wow factor, you can go ahead and get the back of a knife. You just make a little crisscross pattern across the top. So you can just go ahead and do this. It'll give it that nice, beautiful look to it that you need to make it look extra fancy. So I do just a tiny little crisscross pattern on the vegetarian as well as the beef. All right, and then on the very top, just to give it a nice little bite of flavor, I'm gonna do a little salt pinch on both the vegetarian and the beef Wellington and get them right into the oven.
Liquid gold. Right, so we pulled our Wellingtons out of the oven, and now we're going to cook our green beans. We're going to steam them. This is our veggie stock reduction, which is nice and thick now. And here's our demi glace and red wine reduction. And about the time it takes for the Wellingtons to rest, all these sauces will be ready to go, as well as the green beans. Okay, so our Wellingtons are out. Our beef Wellington came out just beautiful and brown the way we were hoping to, and the vegetarian is just beautifully brown, so we're going to start with this one first. Cut off the end so they'll sit flat on the plate. And then that's beautiful. This is the veggie reduction. This is from a veggie stock, and I added some sage leaves. This is what the squash cooked in. All right. Great. Now we're going to cut our Wellington. Take off the ends. Piece of meat. There we go. War of the Wellingtons. Who won? Well, we won't know till dinner time. But bon appetit.